This is my OnePlus 5T, and I've had this phone for 4 years. This phone is simply amazing. So I've had this phone for the last 4 years. I reviewed it 2 years ago in 2020, and it's now my most viewed video on this channel by a mile. And I've chosen to keep this phone because it's survived the last 2 years. It's good, and because of how good it is, I haven't seen the need to replace it. Now, I haven't taken this case off the back of the phone since the last review, and yeah, it's not the cleanest. That's 2 years of grime basically on the back of the phone. So let me just go and clean that out, and yeah, it looks a lot better, a little bit cleaner. This phone, metal, glass, beautiful. It's worked for me. The charging port has been chewed up a lot. If I zoom in, you can see there. The color has come off the edges of the USB Type-C charging port, and that's 2 years ago it was almost perfect. So that's 2 years of plugging it in at least twice a day. The battery isn't as it was even 2 years ago, so I charge this phone at least twice or three times a day. So everything looks good on there. It's still very thin, nothing's bent, it looks good. The buttons are still good. The camera, again, the case has been on it for 2 years, but it has got some paint marks in terms of the paint coming off, some chips, and I've dropped this phone a lot, but nothing's broken, nothing's cracked, nothing has scratched that deeply. The sides still look good. The volume rocker still feels good, strong. I use that daily for the last 4 years, and it still feels as good as it did back then. It looks nice, everything feels good. Nothing has become loose or been bad. And actually, a year ago, I chose to rock this without any screen protector because I'm like, it's a cheap phone. If it cracks, so be it. And I've dropped it on concrete multiple times. Nothing's cracked. So I think, let me put the case back since I want to keep using this. It's a really good phone. So over the last 2 years, I've been struggling to either get a new phone or keep this one. And the way I justified it was to see if it died or it went bad, but it didn't. It's still super fast. It goes through everything just as fast as it was 2 years ago. It has not slowed down one bit. Look at it. It just goes quickly. I know it's not 90 hertz, 120 hertz, but let's just, first do some Geekbench scoring to see how it's changed since I last looked at it. So normally I use Geekbench 5 to go back in the past to see in terms of how the phone performs on that day, and then compare that back to the previous scores. So because I reviewed this phone 2 years ago, today we're going to see, has my phone become faster or slower? Because in that time, it has had a few software updates, and now, as you can see, I'm on Android 10. Still got 4 cores, nothing's changed there. 1 gigahertz, 2.46 gigahertz in the second channel. So same phone, nothing's changed. Same Snapdragon 835. So it looks the same basically. Android 10 again. Basically 1080p by 2160, so it's not 1920, so it's a bit better. But let's run it and let's see. This took about 5 to 6 minutes, so I just sped this up for you. So this is like times 10 to make it kind of a bit faster. But yeah, this phone, in my opinion, it's gotten faster since I've had this. It really has. The score I got is 1920, and back then I had 1648. I'm gonna put a little screenshot here on the side. So as you can see, this has gotten faster on the multi-core score, and I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. It's done well. It's actually jumped up by a lot, which is surprisingly impressive for this phone. And the thing is, with most phones, when you update them, they slow down because the newer softwares are designed for the much faster phones. Now, because this was already fast from factory, it's kept up with every single update that it's had, and it hasn't slowed down one bit. Looking at the performance, nothing's changed. The score is higher, but compared to the newer phones, it's not that high. If we look at the OnePlus 8, OnePlus 7T, OnePlus 8 Pro, OnePlus 9, they are all 2 to 3 times larger in terms of their scores. But it's not about the score. It's really about how it performs. And I use this phone for everything: emails, work, everything basically. And I'm still impressed. I'm still very, very impressed in terms of how, even with this low score compared to the new phones, it still achieves to be the best, fastest phone I've had. Whenever I use my old Samsung or my old devices, my old iPhone, they can't even compare. This can keep up with new phones in terms of speed. Look at it. The back still works, the fingerprint, nothing's happened on this phone. And for me, the speed is one of the main reasons why I haven't upgraded. I'm thinking about getting the new OnePlus, but I'm like, what do I actually gain? I lose the headphone jack. It's just as fast. Yes, the battery life is better on the newer phones because this phone is now 4 years old, but it still works. There isn't one downside. It doesn't freeze. It's super amazing and it feels good in the hand, and it's very thin. I've seen the new iPhones, the new OnePluses, and I feel like the changes are big, but not big enough to change it. For me, once that screen cracks and gets destroyed, then I'll change it. Or once it starts to lag, and that's my vow to myself: unless this phone dies or gets destroyed, I won't change it. And 2 years later, we're here again. Look at it. It still has even the Face ID, which is just as fast as the Apple ID. I know it doesn't use like the dot pixels, but it uses a picture of my face. But when you put it when you put it to your face instantly, it basically unlocks within half a second. That's good enough. I think, this phone is one that will not die for the next 5 years because it's just designed that way. But yeah, it's a good phone. The back circular thing is for my phone mount in the car through magnets. But yeah, the phone hasn't changed. It's still good. Thanks for watching.